That's right. Back to the Future. Not sci-fi. I know what you're gonna say.
What? But the time machine! And the time machine! How dare—
Well, Ebenezer Scrooge travels backward and forward through time. Is that science fiction? And what about when Harry and Hermione travel backward in time just in case the audience missed the second act? Outlander, The Lake House.
I bought a house on the lake.
Army of Darkness. Get what I'm saying?
Great Scott!
In spite of the time travel, the technobabble,
The stainless steel construction made the flux dispersal.
and the endless sci-fi references,
My name is Darth Vader.
Back to the Future isn't science fiction. It's a satire. Satire is just as ancient as the arts themselves, used to ridicule or scorn human nature and society through the use of exaggeration, sarcasm, irony, and humor. So, let's see just how well Back to the Future stacks up to that criteria. Exaggeration. There are exaggerated characters. George McFly, the dweeb. Biff, the bully.
Hello? Anybody home?
Principal Strickland, the strict principal. And Doc Brown, the mad scientist.
21 gigawatts!
There are exaggerated props, a gigantic guitar amp, a dog in a radiation suit, and a mind-reading device. Sarcasm.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
Jesus, George, it was a wonder I was even born. What?
Irony. The rock star Huey Lewis tells Marty,
Afraid you're just too darn loud.
Marty uses a police car to break the law. The mayor of Hill Valley in 1955 ends up as a bum in 1985.
Brett.
Humor. Back to the Future draws on a lot of, oh, I forgot I'm from the future jokes.
Why do you keep calling me Calvin?
It's a rerun.
Who the hell is John F. Kennedy?
They really cleaned this place up. It's an oldie where I come from.
And just plain future humor.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Give me a tab.
Can't give you a tab unless you order something.
Give me a Pepsi free.
You want a Pepsi, pal? You're gonna pay for it.
And they really doubled down on the life preserver jokes.
What'd you do, jump ship?
I guess you're a sailor, aren't you?
Dork thinks he's gonna drown.
To the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary.
Life preserve.
Life preserver.
Life preserver.
Satire doesn't have to be front and center, punching you in the face to be effective. A lot of Back to the Future's charm comes from peripherally highlighting the cultural quirks and differences from the two time periods. Popular music culture, the visual landscape of Hill Valley, the characters using unfamiliar technology,
Portable television studio.
racism,
A colored mayor, that'll be the day.
What do you think you're doing?
Biff.
Everybody knows Marty and Biff are set as opposing forces throughout the narrative of the movie. But they're not set up in the hero-villain dynamic typical of a lot of other 80s adventure movies. They're more doppelgangers than anything else.
Well, maybe you are and you just don't know it yet.
They're both aggressive,
God damn it, George, swear.
they have problems with authority,
Can I go now, Mr. Strickland?
and don't really let anybody push them around. Also, they both seem obsessed with cars.
Check out that 4x4.
He caused $300 damage to my car.
They're hot-headed and prone to brawling. Strickland hates them both, but I suppose Strickland hates everybody. They both plan on forcing themselves on Lorraine.
It's your mom, dude.
Zemeckis illustrates this dynamic of like forces in opposition in a very clever bit of filmmaking. Instead of having Biff and Marty engage in some boring round of fisticuffs, they fight in a much more relevant and entertaining way. Biff's muscle car culture of the 50s is pitted against Marty's skateboard culture of the 80s, making them clash in defense of their values by way of their respective cultures. So, Biff and Marty are basically the same character. Why is there a guy walking around with a French horn? It's an oddly specific prop to give a background extra to hold.
Frank, you are in trouble. Big trouble.
Back to the Future is more similar to A Christmas Carol than it is to any science fiction movie. Both stories deal in fate and taking charge of one's destiny, where Ebenezer is compelled to change his own character and Marty has to change his dad's, both to avoid an unsavory demise. And then Marty, after scaring his dad into banging his mom,
Okay.
takes fate into his own hands in order to save
I
Doc.
can just go back early and warn him. All right, okay, Jennifer, What if I send in the tape and they don't like it?
There's an odd preoccupation with sex in this movie. Marty seems to be overtly sex-motivated, which Jennifer is clearly accustomed to.
It's written all over your underwear.
He might have inherited this trait from his mother. And for a fun family adventure movie, it exhibits a bizarre comfortability with the depiction of sexual assault. Biff does it a few times.
No. Just turn around.
Marty's plan to reunite his parents kicks off with,
George, nice girls get angry when guys take advantage of them.
what's most interesting about all the rapiness is we don't seem to mind. Why are the keys in the trunk of the car? We don't see Biff's cronies throw the keys in there, which means they're already in there. Why? What experiment could Doc possibly have been performing which would result in his clocks being precisely
25 minutes slow.
Wait a minute. Does Lorraine live on the same street as Laurie Strode? Could be. The Gibson ES-345 Marty plays during Johnny Be Good wasn't introduced until 1958. We could go on forever. There's a million of these things. The majority of them are just vague plot devices formulated to move the story along, and Zemeckis and Gale likely didn't give them much thought. Ultimately, the story ends with our hero Marty being rewarded not with character growth, but a rise in social class. His family is richer and waspier, and Marty finally gets that 4x4 he's always wanted, since the beginning of the movie. This is overwhelmingly more satire than science fiction.
Precisely.
The sci-fi in Back to the Future is really more of a primer for the sequels they didn't know they were going to make.